next, we are going to move on to proteins. I think this might be a little bit difficult to understand compared to all other three types. So we talked about monomers and polymer. In proteins, amino acids, that's what makes protein is a monomer. This is an amino acid monomer, another amino acid monomer. When you put these monomers together, that's going to give you a protein. So protein is an organic compound that consists of one or more chains of amino acids. So the monomers in this case are amino acids. And this is known as a polypeptide because the bond that's keeping these proteins together, amino acids together, is called peptide bond. So this peptide bond holds these amino acids together and gives the chain-like structure, and it's known as polypeptide. Poly means multiple, peptide is this bond. There's multiple peptide bonds in this photo here. If you took this protein, put it under the electronic microscope, you would get this structure. This is called amylase. Another thing I said, OSE is for carbohydrates, ASE is for protein. That's the ending, amylase. So this is what it would look like. So peptide bond is a bond between the amine group of one amino acid and the next amino acid here. And the chain of amino acids linked together is known as a polypeptide. Again, some definitions, make flashcards or use Quizlet. This is one of the big concepts we're going to cover for proteins. I want you to maybe write this down. Structure is for proteins, structure is linked to function. So if the structure changes, the function changes. So we're gonna go over some of the structures. Primary structure is the order of those amino acids. This is just a shortcut, LYS. It's lysine, lysine, glycine, leucine, valine. So those are name of the amino acids. So just the order, the way those amino acids are, you have two lysines here, then you have two glycines, one leucine, one valine. This order is referring to primary structure. If we change this order, maybe put glycine first and then lysine, it's gonna give you a different protein. So the structure is very, very important. So that's the primary structure. Then these amino acids, they start to interact with each other. When they interact with each other, here you have, a ball model here with the lines representing peptide bonds between these amino acids. So when they start to interact with each other, it gives you a secondary structure. Secondary structure looks like this alpha helix. So letter alpha and helix is this stairway type of structure. So that's the secondary structure. Then you take a few of these secondary structures, put them together, that gives you tertiary. Tertiary means 3. So that's a tertiary structure. This is a hemoglobin molecule in your body. Actually part of it, because the whole molecule looks like this. Then you take 4 of these, put them together, gives you quaternary structure. Hemoglobin carries oxygen in your body. So if it's different structure, if you change this, it's not going to give you this hemoglobin. And if you don't have that, it might cause some issues in the health. Big issues if it's about oxygen, because you really need oxygen. So I want you guys to, even if you understand this fully, I still want you to go back and review this on your own and maybe watch a video. They're really nice videos on YouTube if you're having a hard time with this concept. So primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary, and quaternary, 4 structures of proteins. And I said if you change this structure, it's going to change the function. This is a normal protein. It has certain shape. If you, so these proteins, they work on a certain temperature. If you change the temperature, let's say you heat up this protein, it's going to lose the shape. And I've been saying that structure is important for function. If it loses the shape, it loses the function. So structure and function are linked together. If you have an egg, you boil the egg, the proteins, they get denatured, basically because you increase the temperature. The proteins are inside the egg. So denature is to unravel the shape of a protein or other large biological molecule. So that's called denaturization or denature, when the protein loses the shape.
So another word, excuse me, another word for it is the normal shape is being called circular shape, right?
Circular shape, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't seen it being called circular shape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just normal shape. It doesn't have to have this shape. It can have any of the shapes, but anytime a protein loses the shape, it loses the function. It
The
just doesn't
function.
function the way it's supposed to function.
Sure, I'm aware of that.
So are there any questions on proteins? No? Okay.
So, for example, you said when you cook an egg, right,
Mm-hmm.
it unravels structure of that protein.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, uh, like for example, in the movie Rocky, when he drinks raw eggs, was that like having a different effect on his body, for example?
No. So raw eggs have the same almost the same amount of protein as a boiled egg, but you should not eat raw eggs because of salmonella. There can be bacteria that can cause disease. I almost get this question every semester. Um, but yeah, it has the same amount of protein, doesn't have any different effect unless there is some bacteria in it that can cause disease and get you sick.
Okay, thank you.
So I do not recommend, drinking eggs. Maybe, sometimes people put it in milk or something like that, and then they drink it because they want bigger muscles and they want more protein for their body, but it's the same amount. Do not do that. So nucleic acid is our last topic of today. We've been talking about monomers. So monomer of nucleic acid is this here. It's called nucleotide. The monomer of nucleic acid is called nucleotide, and it's this whole thing here. So what this includes, it includes a phosphate, includes a pentose sugar. Pentose or pentagon has 5 sides. It has 5 sides, pentose sugar, and it includes a nitrogenous base. So if on the exam I ask you, what are the monomers of nucleic acids called? You're gonna say nucleotide. What is the monomer made of? 5 carbon sugar, nitrogen containing base, and a phosphate group. So that's the nucleotide there. This is just the chemical structure. You don't have to worry about the shapes. Just make sure you guys know what it includes. Yes, the 5 carbon sugar. So I said in the beginning, polymers. So here is the definition. So polymer of nucleotide, that means when you put a lot of nucleotides together, it's gonna give you nucleic acid. And this includes DNA, RNA. This is not, you don't need this in your diet. So DNA, RNA, some coenzymes. So we talked about enzymes and they speed up chemical reactions. Some coenzymes can be assisting them, and or energy carriers and messengers. One thing I want you to know is the energy carrier molecule called ATP. ATP is really, really important for life. If it wasn't for ATP, we wouldn't be able to do anything. That's what gives us energy. That's needed for basically to do any work or all the functions that take place in your body. Or otherwise, you'd be brain dead if there was no ATP. Basically, that's really important. So that's the type of nucleic acid. ATP stands for adenine triphosphate. So ATP. I want you to know this whole name. It's made of adenine base and 5 carbon ribose sugar and 3 phosphate groups. These phosphate groups are very, very important. Each time this phosphate group breaks, it's going to release some energy. So energy released for cell metabolism. So you need this for metabolism. It functions as an energy carrier, this phosphate group. So we're going to talk about it a lot more when we get to, I think it's next chapter, actually, chapter 3. So this ATP is a type of nucleic acid. That's the energy carrier molecule. So make sure you guys know the name, just like DNA, what it stands for. So ATP is a nucleotide monomer of RNA, and it's also essential for metabolic reactions. So basically what this slide is telling you, what I already said, that you need it for metabolism, you need it to do any work. So basically anything that's happening in your body for muscle movement, you need ATP. Here in this photo, this is an example of a nucleotide here. So that's an example of a nucleotide. When you put chains of these nucleotides together, it gives you a nucleic acid. And here, this is an example of DNA, includes two chains of nucleotides. It's twisted in a double helix. And then I already said in today's lectures, it's kind of bringing it all together. So you have nucleotides, two chains in a double helix structure, and these bonds in between are held together by hydrogen bonds. That maintains the three-dimensional structure of this nucleic acid. And those hydrogen bonds are weak bonds. Each time this molecule needs to get copied, the information is copied by breaking those hydrogen bonds. So last, I think this is almost end of the lecture. There's a question for you guys. Which monomer is incorrectly paired? So look at these, see if the monomers are correct for each. Lipid, no monomer. There is no monomer for lipids. We did not talk about any monomer for lipids. Yes, Chris. Also, there's amoeba sisters. So Khan Academy, sometimes they go too much in detail, and this is general biology class, and you guys don't need that much. But there's amoeba sisters. They keep it a little bit simple. Everybody's saying D, and it's asking incorrectly paired. Go back, maybe look at your lipid slides. There is no monomer for lipids. We do not talk about a monomer for lipids. So that is correct answer. Carbohydrate, Chris said B, carbohydrate monosaccharide. Saccharide is sugar. Monosaccharide is a monomer for carbohydrate. So that's correct as well. Kaylin said A. Protein, monopeptide. Have you guys heard monopeptide today? The word monopeptide?
No.
No, right? So what makes proteins? Amino acid. Kaylin said amino acid. So amino acid is a monomer for protein. That's what makes protein. So you have to put amino acids together, and that's what's going to give you a protein. That reminds me of something. So if you, I don't know, if somebody takes those protein shakes, so sometimes people want to bulk up, they want to have bigger muscles, and they start taking protein powder or protein shake. What are you gonna find if you look at the ingredient list for that? It's gonna, I think, it's gonna give you the ingredient list, and that's gonna include this. It's gonna include all the amino acids that are there, because that's what you need to build a muscle. Muscles are made of proteins, and for proteins you need amino acids. So people who are trying to get big muscles, that they start taking these protein powders or protein shakes. So it's gonna give you alanine, that's amino acid, arginine, amino acid, cysteine, that's amino acid. So these are amino acids making the protein. So that's so that's end of today's lecture. So I'll take if there are any questions about anything now.